could invite everybody to please sit down. We have to end our conversations and begin the business portion of our meeting. And before we do, your incoming president, Linda McCabe, would like to say something. We have a little gift for Betsy to begin the meeting. It's a gavel. It has her name and League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson with the year. We were going to give it to her at the end as a gift, but because you all are so unruly, we're going to give it to her now so that she can use it if she needs to use it now. So she said, I need a gavel, and I said, okay, well, I guess we'll give it to you now. So
I literally said that. I said, see, this is why we need a gavel. She's like, wait.
are you ready?
I am. All right. I am officially calling this meeting to order. So welcome, everyone. We are grateful to all of you for joining us at our annual meeting of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson. The League strives to be a welcoming space, inviting all people, regardless of gender, gender identity, ability, ethnicity, or race, to join us as we commit to building a stronger, more inclusive democracy. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands and territories of Indigenous peoples. Arizona is currently home to 22 federally recognized tribes, including the Pasquiyaki and Tohono O'odham people, who have stewarded this land for generations and are an important part of the fabric of this community. The League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson remains steadfast in our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to being a welcoming and inclusive space for all. As a reminder, this is a business meeting, and as we move through the agenda, only members in good standing of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson may vote. If you are a guest, we welcome you, but please, no voting. A few housekeeping items. You should have all received the call 30 days before this meeting to review. In addition, we hosted calls to answer questions related to the bylaws, the budget, and the proposed name change ahead of this meeting. On your tables, you will find copies of the budget, the new bylaws, and the redlined version for your reference. You should also have a copy of the agenda in order to follow along. You will find index cards and pens for you to use to indicate your interest in certain committees that are forming, to draft motions, or write down directions to the board during that section at the end of the meeting. I would like to take a moment to ask our current board members and our committee chairs to stand up. As this is the last day of National Volunteer Week, I want to give a hearty thank you to our volunteers, members, committee chairs, and board members who dedicate countless hours to the League and its mission. Thank you. So at this time, I would like to welcome a special guest. Claudia Stevens is the state president for the Nebraska League of Women Voters, and she is joining us here today and would like to share some thoughts on the work that they're doing in Nebraska. Thank you, Claudia.
Hey, good morning, everyone from Nebraska. Yes. When I walked into this room today, I had that familiar feeling. You know it, the moment where you realize, these are my people. Yes. It doesn't matter if we're from Nebraska or from Arizona. When you're in a room full of League members, you feel it right away. People who care, people who show up, people who quietly and consistently do the work of democracy. And it is a privilege to be with you today. It's truly a pleasure to be here with the League of Greater Tucson, and thank you for welcoming me so warmly. I feel a real connection here, not just because of my time in Arizona. We have a home in Oracle, but because where you go in the League, you find people who care deeply about their communities, about democracy, and that is something we all share. Let me start by introducing myself a bit more personally. My background is in natural resources, land, water, long-term stewardship, working with private land with ranchers and farmers in Nebraska. That's where I first drew me into the league work with the Natural Resources Action Team, which, as it turns out, was led by my daughter. So, yes, my daughter recruited me into the league. She later became the co-president. You can probably see where I'm going with this. And for a time, we served as co-presidents. And now I have the honor of serving as president of the Nebraska League of Women Voters. My term runs through June of 2027, completing 3 years in this role. It has been one of my most rewarding experiences of my life. Nebraska is a largely rural state with communities spread far apart. The state is 475 miles wide from west to east. We have 1.7 million people. I think there are probably 3 million cows. And I live 4 hours from the capital, and yet president of the state. I am an at-large member. And yet, despite these challenges, our league is strong. In my recent president's message, I said this: the work being done by our members is of the highest quality. Across Nebraska, we have 4 local leagues. They are stepping up, registering voters, helping new citizens, hosting community conversations, building membership. They are the impact. What have we been focused on? First, voter education. No, you're the voter. Who's voter education out here? Who's voter education? Who's my voter education? There we go, okay. So first, it's voter education. This continues to be at the core of everything we do. We're expanding both digital and in-person efforts using tools like Vote 411, but also showing up face-to-face in our communities. Because what we are hearing is clear. People want reliable, nonpartisan information. They want to understand the issues, but they don't always know where to turn. That's where the league comes in. Second is our legislative efforts. During our most recent session, our members were actively involved. Let me give you a sense of scale. We have 52 members on our 6 action teams. We've reviewed 387 bills and resolutions. We wrote 29 letters on behalf of LWV Nebraska, and then we testified in person on 13 bills. And importantly, this work doesn't stay within those teams. Each week, all of our 550 plus members receive an action alert, keeping them informed, engaged, and connected. So while the core group goes deep policy, our entire membership is part of the process. We are nonpartisan, and we are not passive. We bring thoughtful, well-researched perspectives to the table, and that has earned us respect across Nebraska. When league members speak in Nebraska, people listen. Third, communications and connection. We've worked to strengthen how we communicate through our newsletters, our outreach, our collaboration across local leagues. Not just to share information, but to build a stronger, more connected organization. Because when our members are informed and engaged, our impact multiplies. I'm incredibly proud of our members. This volunteer work, but it's not casual work. They show up, they are engaged, and they care deeply about the communities. That's the league at its best. No matter where we are in our mission, it is the same. Inform the voters, engage the communities, and a strong democracy. I'll close with this. The League of Women Voters has never been about being the loudest voice in the room. We are a steady voice, the trusted voice, the voice that shows up, does the work, and builds confidence in the democratic process. And that work, your work here in Greater Tucson and our work in Nebraska, is making a difference. Thank you for what you do, thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for being part of this remarkable organization. Thank you.
Our Our guest speaker today was to be Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva. That was the big surprise. And because we know when we're dealing with our elected officials, we're not always certain they can participate, that was why we kept her name under wraps. Unfortunately, she is detained in D.C. and cannot be here with us today, but she did send along a video message that we'll share now with all of you.
Hola, buenos días. I'm Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, and I want to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for the invitation today. I'm so sorry I couldn't join you in person like I was planning, but as a longtime participant in the League of Women Voters events in Tucson, I'm proud to join you from afar. For more than a century, the League of Women Voters has played a critical role in helping people participate in our democracy, and that work has never been more important than it is right now. Because we are living through a moment of profound changes and challenges for our democracy. 6 years after January 6th, election denialism is once again on the rise. False claims about election outcomes continue to circulate, undermining trust in our democratic institutions. We're also seeing alarming increases in threats and harassment directed at election administrators and poll workers, the very people who make our elections possible. These are public servants who are facing intimidation simply for doing their jobs. That should concern every one of us, regardless of party or ideology. At the same time, there are ongoing efforts to restrict access to the ballot. In Congress, one example is the SAVE Act, which would impose new documentation requirements for voter registration and could create new barriers for eligible voters, particularly seniors, students, working families, and married women who've changed their names. We're also seeing broader efforts at the federal level that raise serious constitutional concerns, like attempts to create national voter lists or impose new requirements on states. These kinds of actions risk undermining state authority over elections and could make it harder for eligible Americans to vote. In fact, I recently joined my Arizona colleagues, Representatives Ansari and Stanton, in opposing an executive order that would move in this direction, raising serious concerns about federal overreach, threats to voter privacy, and the risk of disenfranchising voters, especially in states like Arizona, where vote by mail is widely used. We're also working to strengthen protections for voters. That includes supporting legislation like the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which would restore and modernize key safeguards of the Voting Rights Act following years of court decisions that have weakened its protections. Because in years since decisions like Shelby County v. Holder and Bronovich v. DNC, we've seen states move forward with changes that make it harder for some communities, especially communities of color, to access the ballot. Strengthening these protections is essential to ensuring every eligible voter can participate. Taken together, these trends point to a broader challenge whether we will continue to move toward a more inclusive democracy or allow new barriers to take hold. In my work in Congress, I am focused on protecting access to the ballot, supporting people who administer these elections, and ensuring that every eligible voter can participate without unnecessary obstacles. At the end of the day, this is not about partisanship. It's about whether our democracy lives up to its promise, that every voice matters, that every vote counts. That's why the work of the League is so essential. Your commitment to voter education, expanding access, and defending the democratic process is a cornerstone of a healthy democracy. So thank you for your leadership, your persistence, and for continuing to meet this moment with urgency it demands. I hope you have a wonderful meeting today. Thank you. Gracias.
So that was a wonderful message, and we're thankful to Adelita and all of our elected representatives for the work they're doing on our behalf. So we're a little ahead of schedule, but I am going to officially call our meeting to order. And now I have a gavel, so I can do it. Will the credential chair please report on the attendance? Do we have a quorum?
Yes, on behalf of the Credential Committee, I move that this roster of delegates.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. A quorum being present, the meeting will come to order. So the first order of business, I need to appoint Our esteemed parliamentarian, Susan Wilson, and I want to thank her specifically for her guidance and for being here today to make sure that we are following Robert's rules. So she is our official parliamentarian. Our timekeeper, Sue DeArmond, to keep us to time so we can get out of here on time. Our Minutes Committee Chair, Barb Colvin. If you have statements, speeches, reports, please email them to her to be included in the minutes. And our credentialist, Linda Longlet, thank you. She will ensure that we have a voting quorum throughout the meeting. And so now moving ahead to the adoption of the meeting rules, which were included in detail in the call. So are there any objections to the meeting rules? Seeing none, I move that we adopt the meeting rules as presented. Well, now I'm going to stop here because there are certain items that we are going to adopt without objection. They don't require a vote. If nobody objects, we are in agreement that we are adopting them and we don't need to vote. There will be moments, such as the bylaws, that require a 2/3 vote when I will ask you to raise your hand and vote. So I just want to clarify the process. So for now, seeing no objections, we can move forward and adopt the meeting rules as presented. I now would like to move forward with approval of the meeting minutes. Again, these were included in the call. I hope you had the opportunity to review them. And now I have to ask, are there any questions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, if there is no objection, the minutes shall stand as approved and presented. We are moving right along. Next up, I would like to invite Sherry Springer up to present the treasurer's report.
I am here not as a treasurer, but as supporting treasurer role for a while, for the last few months. A couple of announcements on what we have done with our financial situation since, and Linda Longlet, correct me, when did we transition to QuickBooks? November? December of 2025, we transitioned all of our accounting over to QuickBooks, which was a new move for the league. It actually has streamlined our operations. It's made things a lot easier to keep track of. The process of getting it to the right point was a little bit tedious, but it was done. Linda Longlet and Betsy handled getting our budget numbers in and everything. Linda has worked diligently to make sure all of our coding and our accounts are set up, etc. I stepped in a couple of months ago to help Linda. We are 99.9% there with our finances. It's been quite a problem, but it's great. A couple of things we did in this process, we consolidated several accounts. For some reason, we had 2 operating checking accounts. We no longer have that. We had a very low interest money market that was really not worth having. We've combined the operating checking accounts into one. We closed the money market and transferred it into our operating checking account. We will look at opening some higher interest CDs in the future. We do have one, but I just give you all of that so you have some history on these numbers because our checking account looks pretty good, and that's why. So today, our operating checking account has a balance of $51,454.83. Our CD has a balance of $11,027.63. That CD was just renewed and it matures in September, I think, Linda? And it's at about almost 3%. Yeah, somewhere around there. We will look at opening a couple more of those so we have rotating CDs going in and out throughout the year. Just real quickly for income this year, our Issues and Eggs Breakfast Forum brought in just over $20,000, which I think was a record. And since I am the outgoing chair of that, I get to say kudos to all of my committee members that are sitting here. The We'll Pay the Rent campaign, brand new campaign brought in this year, we did just over $8,000. So we consider that a huge success for its first year. That will kick off again in June. Approximately a little over $4,000 was brought in directly from member donations. The majority of those brought in October during the call letter that Betsy sent. Our education fund currently has a balance of $47,973. About 6 or 7 of that is in restricted funds for voter services, Issues and Eggs, and Running and Winning. The 41,000+ has no restrictions. I want to take a minute and really acknowledge Linda Longmutt for all of the work she has done to help us with our finances. And I truly have to say, stepping in to help, I mean, I've done this stuff. I've run budgets and financial statements for nonprofits for years. There is no way I could have done this without that woman. And I know she's going to continue to help us get it to where we're 100% there. Anyway, that's it. Any questions? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions? Yeah.
The 51,000 on the CD, is the CD in addition to the 51,000?
Correct. The CD's 11,000, the balance is 51,000.
I too want to thank Sherry and Linda for stepping in and rescuing me when I was the pretend treasurer for a while, just making sure the money moved around correctly. So thank you. So seeing there are no other questions, this report will be placed on file for audit. I would next like to invite up Bob Delaney to present on both the operating budget and the education fund budget.
Thank you. Just this was outlined in the call, but just some context. As you know, we have two budgets. We have the operating budget. The contributions to that are not tax deductible, and then we have an education budget. So we're first going to talk about the operating budget. But I guess I want to thank my committee members, Sharon Storm, Kathy Woods, and the outgoing and incoming presidents, Betsy and Linda, for helping put this together. So let's just take a look a little bit at the bigger picture. As you can see, there's $51,165 in total revenue. And if we go down to the bottom of the operations budget, if we can scroll down, you'll see that we have expenses that exceed that, $60,889. So we're budgeting a little under a $10,000 deficit. Last year's was $30,000 deficit, but I think we've managed to moderate that quite a bit. So if we go back up to the top, we'll take a look at revenue and just the major pieces. Don't want to go into too much detail, but you can see how that a little bit more than 10% comes from dues. Dues is not a big moneymaker. In addition, and this is a little bit throwing darts, we anticipate about 2,500 from members and 2,500 more from non-members in this midterm election year in terms of contributions to the operating budget, the non-deductible contributions. The annual meeting receipts from next year's annual meeting are estimated to be 2,100. That matches the expenses, as you'll see later. We have applied for various fundraising grants in the amount of 3,500. And you can see issues and eggs receipts budgeted, I'd say conservatively after this year's performance at 24,500. There's another 2,500 in the ed fund you'll see later. And then down to the previously mentioned pay the rent contributions, another big piece this year. Those are kind of, the big pieces are the dues, the contributions, issues and eggs, and this very creative and successful pay the rent, where you adopt a day, a week, a month of our overhead. So that's basically where the revenue comes from in the operations budget. If we go down to the...
Can we ask questions along the way or no?
Sure.
Super quick. So is that pay the rent contribution the total amount for the year, or is that a portion of what the rent is, that $8,000? Is that all of it, or is that...
No, that defrays a portion of it. The rent is more like $13,000.
We'd love it to.
Well, that's why I'm asking, but yeah.
Next year.
And just parenthetically, about 2 years left on that lease of the space on Swan. So here we can see that 60% of the rent obligation is paid out of the operating fund, and that's $7,400. And then 60% of phone, utilities, internet, and tech subscriptions. Our insurance actually went down this year because we tapped into the state insurance program. And I just don't want to read this to you, but you'll see that the fees for the donations are not insignificant between Club Express and Chapter Spot. And then we'll sort of go down to one of the major things in the operating budget is advocacy. And if we could scroll down a little bit and look at the different line items for that. This is a total of about $6,700 in advocacy, and you can see how it is sort of laid out there. Here are the expenses associated with the annual meeting, which match the income. The budget for communications in the operating budget, monies for state and national conventions of the league, small amounts for winter brunch and hospitality, the expenses associated with Issues and Eggs, and then we get down to membership, another kind of big bucket in the operating account. If we can scroll down and take a look at that. Here, we see the various components of it. This is kind of our outreach, among other, in addition to membership, recruitment and retention and development. For the first time, DEI is included under the umbrella and reports through membership. So you see that item there. And then kind of moving down, board development, consultants who might help us through to develop the board, and the fundraising expenses, postage associated with trying to raise that $5,000. And then we did the grant that was applied for from the Lowe's Foundation, $3,500 of the $10,000 is scheduled to purchase a new printer. We'll only make that purchase if we are successful in getting the grant. So that goes away if we don't get the grant. Founders Day expenses, again, matched the Founders Day income. And then we wanted to capture the costs associated with some of the awards that we'll be making later today. So again, going down a little farther, we'll see the net result. There is a $4,000 contingency just to cover what we can't foresee, and we have our $10,000 plus or minus loss for the year. So that is the detail on the operating budget. So I guess I would ask if there are any questions. Yes.
So, because one of my favorite things also is the voter guide, which is online, but we have printed copies, and people still like the printed copies, so I was wondering about the cost of the printed copies.
I think that's captured in the Ed Fund budget. We do have money for, we're entertaining a name change to the League of Women Voters of Southern Arizona from Greater Tucson to capture more of the area. And so there'll be printing costs associated with that, but I believe that, Linda, am I correct that there's monies in the education budget for printing?
Well, actually, the TEP donated the cost of the printing for that.
And has for a couple of years.
Yeah. Yes, they have for a couple of years. So
Okay.
the money, when you move over, we'll talk more if you have questions about printing on the voter ed side in TV.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Does that $10,000 reflect decrease in the operating account?
It will decrease that buffer that Sherry mentioned. Yeah. So we try to, I think the history is that frequently we have budgeted a negative and we have made it up, and it's either less or completely goes away. It is in a pretty important election year, so our sense is that people will be responsive to fundraising efforts, particularly this year. But it is a negative budget, but we do have the resources to absorb it. What you don't see in this budget is those per member payments that kind of crippled us the last couple of years that were so expensive. So it's moderated quite a bit.
Betsy building.
Yes.
I apologize, but could you clarify the grant and the printer? Did we receive a grant to pay for the printer and it didn't pay for the whole thing, or have we applied for a grant?
We have,
So, a few years ago, I believe about 5 years ago, we received a grant of $10,000 to purchase the copier. Now, it went into the voter education fund because that was where the grantee wanted, or grantor wanted the money to go. So the copier and the subsequent payments for copies come directly out of the voter ed fund because that's where it was designated. So right now, we have been shopping around trying to find a grant for a new copy machine. We're still asking for the funding. And then once again, that will go in, be paid out of the voter education fund because they requested it as a, they can get a tax deductible. That's the word I'm looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. How much does the copier cost?
This time, yeah.
Well, so we're still under contract until February with this one. So every month we pay a small portion out of the, they send us a bill, and we pay a little bit on the copier, but we also pay for copies. So our copies are about 1.5 cents for black and white, and about 3 or 4 cents per color. So we had talked about just eliminating that, but as you know, if you went to Office Max, you'd be paying a fortune. So it's more cost appropriate for us to keep a copy machine because we make a lot of copies, particularly during election time, and then for issues and eggs, and then materials that we take out to the tabling, either under membership or under voter education. So it makes more sense to keep a copy machine. But it's getting older, and we're going to need a new one, and so we've been looking for grants to pay for that. Does that answer your questions about that?
Yeah, so that's what she wants clarification.
so not to contradict you, but I think the grant that we've applied for $10,000 from the Lowe's Foundation, $3,500 of it is to fund the purchase of that printer. Am I correct?
Yes, if we receive it.
If we receive it. If we don't receive it, we won't incur the expense.
Right, exactly right.
Any other questions, clarifications? All right, let's move on to the education budget. And this is where the funds are tax deductible. And you'll see on the income part of it, it's about twice what we've budgeted for the operations fund, $8,000 from members, $2,000 from non-members. We've achieved that this year. And so I think it's very likely we will do that again in this midterm election year. And you can see the other varying items, grants for $3,000, and then the fundraising endowment distribution of $8,096. The $6,500 line item is the non-printer portion of that $10,000 grant I was just talking about from the Lowe's Foundation. And then, as I mentioned before, $2,500 of income from issues and eggs kind of flows through the education fund. And then pledge sponsorships for running and winning are another income item. So if we scroll up, we'll see the subtotal. This budget is about half the size of the operations budget, 60 versus 30 plus or minus. And we see that the ed fund does help us to the extent of 40% of the rent expense, 40% of the phone, utilities, and internet. We actually, the operations funds, obviously we have to pay all of the rent each month, so it turns out being a reimbursement that we apply to the ed fund. One thing to know about the ed fund is we don't control that. It's managed by a state committee. They want to be very, very careful that we don't run afoul of the mission, that it's tax deductible, and that we aren't challenged for that. So there's a little bit of a process. You have to make application, but they've been pretty responsive to our needs. So if we cruise down to, we can see that they help us with our tech subscriptions. We have $1,000 in the communications budget in addition to what's in the operating budget. And as Linda was talking about, some of the copier expenses and maintenance are paid for out of the Ed Fund budget as we share expenses. Continuing down.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the technical subscriptions? What do you subscribe?
So, let me get my spectacles out. So, phone, AT&T, internet subscription, Zoom, GoDaddy, Club Express card fees, Club Express email accounts, and then the Canva, Adobe, QuickBooks, those are kind of the elements that make up the technology. It's basically our communications platform and some of our payment platform. So this is kind of the heart of what we do. If this is, so I think we have budgeted about $33,000 in expenses. Probably 2/3 of it is right here. And this is kind of the crux of the work that we do. You see voter education programs, running and winning, and then the various other elements of voter education, voter registration, and somewhere in the $20,000 range. This is up from last year, but again, this is a very, very important year. We are including a $2,000 contingency, about half, because the budget's about half the size. So we have total expenses of $33,321. There is one thing you'll see at the very top there. There's a $400 item that was removed from the Ed Fund budget and put in the operating budget, and I neglected to remove it. So the actual budget that you'll be approving, if we do approve it, will actually end up being $400 less, and so we will have a positive balance of $1,274.30 instead of $874. So that's a little discrepancy between what you saw in the call and what the actual budget will be. And that is it. I guess I'd say, and I mentioned this in the call, is it's kind of amazing to think of all the work that happens for $90,000. You know, it really doesn't capture in any way all the work that happens here, so it's remarkable. Yes.
I'm Carol West, and I would like to call attention to our endowment, which is at the Jewish Community Foundation of Southern Arizona. A lot of us with white hair give from our IRAs to that fund so that it increases. And it started out at about, I think, $75,000 that Harvey Lance gave us out of his estate. And it's grown considerably. I think it's almost doubled, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
And so, you know, if you have an IRA and you feel especially generous, find out how you can give to that fund, because that helps grow what comes. I think you said it was $8,000 and something that comes to the Ed Fund. That's where that money comes from. And we can grow that still more so that we have more money for the Ed Fund. So bless Harvey Lance for being so generous.
That's Carol West for keeping track.
Nuts and bolts. If we do wish to make a contribution through our IRAs, we need an address and exactly how to make this out, because you don't make out the checks for your IRA. You send it to the bank, and they send it.
We'll put it in the voter.
Yeah.
I'm Sharon Storm. I work for the Finance Chair, and I'm a new member.
Oh, wait, hi, Sharon. Wait, let her get the microphone to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. Sharon Storm.
I just received, some information from the organization that's administering these funds on our behalf. I have a lot of questions. I think that it isn't. I know that we're contributing generously, it's not clear to me how much of that fund we ultimately can take back every year and whether that's being maximized for our benefit. But
The answer to that is 4%.
right now, we're taking 25% of receipts. That's what we took this year, of the income in the fund. They gave us 25% back, and the rest stays in as principal and continues to grow.
That's correct.
Right. So I don't know whether that comes from rules from that organization or that comes from what Harvey's original request had been.
That comes from the rules of the organization.
Perfect, right? So all we need to do is be able to clarify for them, how can we educate people, how can we give them more information to realize what an important cause this is, and we can publicize that over the coming months.
Yes. I'm astonished that that has fallen flat. I think we need to work on that and come up with a program.
We're working on it.
And whenever we can, so that the members know about this, because that's a way for us to raise some money.
And Carol, it's grown a lot. It's grown a lot. So we're working on trying to figure this out.
If you have a direct contact, somebody there that you've worked with, that would be a helpful place for us to start.
Yeah.
Because I paperwork and no names.
Okay.
Other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
This is a minor thing, but wait. We ask everybody to wait for the microphone so that we can ensure everybody can hear.
So I mean, periodically there's little, T-shirts got sold. Where are they? Was there profit made on them? Was there a cost? They're just like a wash? Okay.
That was a pass-through. You buy the T-shirt for the cost.
For next year.
Right, I know.
Not a moneymaker. There's a couple in office.
Do you want to speak? No, I just thought they should be on the microphone.
Oh, that's right. I'm breaking my own rule. So here you go. The T-shirts are a wash. That's not a moneymaker. It's just a pass-through. We whatever the cost is of the T-shirt, that's what you pay for.
Other questions? Betsy, do you want to?
Yeah.
take it from here?
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Yes, he did. Yes, let's give a round of applause to Bob. He has diligently undertaken this and been a really steady hand for the last 2 years, and we so appreciate it. So if there are no more questions on either of the two budgets, the operating or the education budget, including the correction to the education budget, we will, without objection, let's stand the operating budget as submitted, and let's stand the education budget as approved with the correction. I mean, I think I need to do something to make it sound official. And I want to take a moment also, to thank Nicole, Sherry's niece, for being our microphone maven, and again, and be part of the youth that we're cultivating into the league. Now we come to the real meat of the matter. I'm going to invite Joan Kaltzis up to provide the explanation of the bylaws revisions. And I want to thank her and her committee deeply for the work that they have done and the time that they spent, for Joan's knowledge and diligence in really getting into our bylaws, to making sure they are, and I don't want to steal her thunder, but that they're aligned with the national and state leagues, and that they provide more clarity as we go about doing our business. So thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Betsy. I could not have done it without 4 other people in my committee, and I will get around to them. I see a couple. But anyway, this morning I'm here, in addition to asking for approval of this year's revised bylaws, to more personally strengthen for all of us our relationship with our bylaws. They're 15 pages long this year, and many of us might not know much about them, but Wait. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Could I see a show of hands, perhaps, of how many members here this morning have a working copy of our bylaws in their bedside table? Pat, one of my members, committee members? Linda? All right, well, anyway, okay. Well, so let me introduce you then to some of your bylaws committee. There's Pat Markey, Linda McCabe. I don't see Phyllis, and I know that Nicole is out of town, so Phyllis isn't here, no. I could not have done it without them. So thank you. So, welcome to a crash course now on Bylaws 101. And I'll bet that in the next 15 minutes, even old-timers will learn something that they don't have a perspective on. Bylaws are unique in each organization. They outline how that board will operate. They are foundational governing rules. They are legally binding and they comply with federal and state laws. They require a specific process in order to update them, which we're going to do, and they should be easily accessible, and ours are through a link on our opening webpage. Some bylaws you'll never find. They're buried. National bylaws have existed since 1923, the states since 1950, and ours since April 14th, 1948. All league bylaws begin with the same 3 articles per nationals: our name, our purpose and policy, and our membership. In any of the more than 800 plus state and local leagues bylaws, these first 3 articles follow nationals language. So let's get started here. We're going to go through our 15 articles. I'll point out the significant changes or sections of each without referring to specific sections. That could take us forever. And Sue is timing me. And then we'll take questions at the end. And this will go quickly but thoroughly. We'll be using the final amended copy of the bylaws written in the call, starting on page 46. It will be on the screen. I know that having a summary of changes, the red-lined copy, and then the final version was somewhat overwhelming, but there are members who want all this information, as well as it comprising the committees. I'll call out the pages, Jeremy or whomever, as they change. So let's start with page 46, please. And I'm not asking that you fall in love with our bylaws. Some of us might already be there, but hopefully that you'll appreciate and know them better. There's a strong belief that before any of us join any organization, and in our case the League, we should have read their bylaws. And if one couldn't agree, for instance, with our first 3 articles, then this organization may not be for them. So, page 46, please. Article 1, name. We are a tripart organization. The League of Women Voters of the United States, we call her the National League. We belong to LWVAZ, the Arizona. There are 5 leagues in the state. And the LWV Greater Tucson, we're one of the 5. No change there. Article 2, purposes and policies. Just to refresh our belief in League, our purposes are to promote political responsibility by empowering and informing voters. We act upon our studied and selected governmental issues, our policies, and our positions. Our policies, our political policy, also known as our nonpartisan policy, states that we don't support or oppose any political party or candidate. This has been our foundational pillar for existence since our founding in 1920. And then, almost 100 years later, and only for the second time in our League history, a second policy was added. At their 2020 National Convention, delegates voted to amend the bylaws to include the League's being fully committed in principle and practice to the DEI policy. Article 3, membership, defines those who join a local league or others as members at large, as anyone over 16, or anyone with 50 years or more of league experience as life members. And we've added a clarifying subsection distinguishing between voting and non-voting members, but basically no change. Article 4, officers, page 47. There's now an Article 4 for officers and the next Article 5 for directors. There was some confusion as to who was what. Officers are the president, president-elect, secretary, and treasurer. There is requirement that the president shall reside, can't resign yet. Oh my God. Okay, that the president, we'll get to that later, that the president shall reside within the boundaries of LWVGT. This is new. The president is responsible for maintaining relationships with the presidents of LWVAZ and U.S. The president shall be an ex officio member of any committee except the nominating committee. There can be co-officers or co-directors or co-chairs, but with only one shared vote. One of the two or three will agree to be designated the director of record. The treasurer is now to be a voting member of the annual audit. This is new. Page 48, Article 5, directors. This is per the board's directive. There are to be 5 elected directors. The elected directors and their portfolios will be voted on in this meeting with these bylaws. These 5 proposed elected directors include advocacy, voter service, membership, communications, and fund development and events committees. Page 49. There shall be no more than 4 appointed directors. The board can appoint them at any time. All terms shall be a maximum of 2 years, and all ending with the annual meeting 2 years hence. Article 6, Board of Directors. There are 2 new board directives. The board of directors shall consist of the 4 officers, the 5 elected directors, no more than 4 appointed directors, and the president emeritus. This is new. There is to be a president emeritus, a non-voting member who, at the discretion of the current president, may be from any of the remaining past presidents who would serve as a mentor, advisor, etc. Of course, that person would have to agree. That means that we'll have 3 versions of presidency: president-elect, president, and president emeritus. I had one retiring president in my league in Illinois who, the day after the annual meeting, moved to San Martinique. So Betsy, I'm just wondering, do you have any moving plans? Where are you? Yes, okay. Any moving plans, Betsy, tomorrow? Okay. Page 50, please. 4 absences from the board meetings of any member in one fiscal year shall be deemed a resignation. A subsection was added, permitting the board to create committees as it deems necessary. There is adopted LWV U.S. language as to the responsibilities of board members. They are to carry out league bylaws, mission, policies, principles, positions, standards, and procedures. This should be in every new board member's packet and on their refrigerator or next to their bed. Okay. Also added, a clearer definition of the duties for the Greater Tucson's 2 representatives to the LWVAZ Board and the LWVAZ Ed Fund. They shall be ex officio members of the Greater Tucson Board, but without voting powers. Okay, moving on, there shall be at least 9 regular meetings of the board. Page 51, please. Special meetings called by the president by 5 members of the board shall be held as soon as possible versus a set number of days. And a just and fair protocol for possible removal of an officer, board member, or chair by the board is now clearly defined. Article 7, Executive Committee. The Executive Committee is a smaller group of advisors to the president, the 4 officers plus one of the elected directors chosen by the president. Per board directive, that elected director was reduced from 2 members to 1. Page 52, please. All internal discussions by this committee are to be reported to the board. Article 8, Governance Committee. It's even smaller. It's chaired by the president-elect, and it includes 2 directors. It has specific responsibilities to keep the board operating within the bylaws and on track. They select the bylaws chair and the board member to sit on this committee. They review the board minutes and the treasurer's report for completeness and accuracy and make sure they are distributed to all board members. They ensure that all committees have the required number of members. They ensure that all reports from the LWVAZ boards are conveyed to the Greater Tucson Board. They advise the board on other matters of governance as needed. Article 9, Financial Administration. There was a lot of simplifying language here, having it be in compliance with the complicated LWVUS changes and dues payments. The Budget Committee is constituted here. No more than 5 members. A majority of members, including the chair, shall not be from the board. And this is new, and it follows National's model. The treasurer shall be a voting member of this committee. Page 53, please. Here is the first reference as to when the board needs to have the budget bylaws and nominating committees fully staffed and operational. Past bylaws didn't allow much time to do this, as all work had to be reported to the board 2 months prior to the annual meeting, which is February, because the call has to be in our hands as members 30 days prior to the annual meeting, which is March. That meant that these committees weren't completely chosen until maybe December. Not a good time to begin work. So now all committees should be complete and operative by September. The board can only revise the voted upon annual meeting budget by 10% in case of necessity or compliance during the year prior to the next annual meeting. There is a more specific distribution of properties in the event of dissolution of this league. All monies and securities would go to the LWVUS and/or LWVAZ Ed funds or other organizations at the discretion of the board and in agreement with the funds, the Jewish funds contract. So let's not even go there. We're a large and participatory league that will live on for many years to come. We've been in existence for 85 years, since 1941. So we're not going anywhere. But let's borrow National's mantra. We're on a path of uniting and rising. And finally, any real property of the Greater Tucson League in the event of dissolution would go to a charitable organization named by the board, and this had not been spelled out before. Article 10, meetings. 10% of voting members in attendance shall constitute a quorum. There is delineated a more complete listing of the agenda to be carried out at an annual meeting. There are more clearly defined requirements for a special membership meeting with the board that can be called by 5% of the membership for a specific purpose. There is a requirement that the board shall schedule voter education meetings throughout the year, perhaps coinciding with membership meetings. Article 11, nominations and elections. A nominating committee shall consist of 5 members, a chair, and 2 members who are not from the board. Today, we shall elect the non-board chair and 2 members for this committee. The others shall be appointed by the board at its first meeting. Page 55, please. The committee will serve upon being appointed until the end of the next annual meeting and assist with any filling of open positions during the year. This is somewhat new. We now have 2 standing committees, the nominating committee and the bylaws committee, you'll see here, serving from annual meeting to annual meeting. And nominations for board members not slated by this committee may be made from the floor, provided the consent of the nominee, of course, has been obtained. Article 12, principles and public policy positions. Per LWVUS revisions, program is now defined as public policy positions. This is new. Local governmental issues would be chosen at the annual meeting for concerted study, concurrence, and action. Page 56, please. Any recommendation for public policy positions will be submitted to the board at least 60 days prior to the annual meeting, whether they come from membership, the board, or other leagues. Those recommended by the board will require a majority vote for approval. Those not recommended require a majority vote for consideration and then a 2/3 vote for adoption. There is protocol for reaching concurrence for a proposal of a policy from another league included. and a more clearly defined and significant explanation as to who can speak for the League and when, and how that speech needs to be in conformity with and not contrary to positions taken by the Greater Tucson, Arizona, and U.S. boards, and can be delivered only with the authorization of those respected boards is clearly defined here. Finally, Article 13, National and State Conventions and Council. There are no changes here. This article has always specified the number of delegates allowed to each of these gatherings. Article 14, Amendments, page 57, please. Amendments to the bylaws require a two-thirds vote by the voting membership. This differs from most voting, which is by majority vote. That elevation of approval gives us some indication as to the seriousness and significance of our bylaws. Since all proposed changes had to be submitted to the membership 30 days in advance of this meeting, no further changes or amendments can be recognized now. The Bylaws Committee shall consist of 5 voting members, the chair, and 3 members shall not be from the board. Usually the chair of the Governance Committee sits on this committee. The chair shall be appointed within 5 months from the annual meeting, shall complete the committee, which shall then serve as a standing body until the end of the next annual meeting. This is a new responsibility of the Bylaws Committee. There is anticipation of bylaws changes coming down from National Convention, which is this June. So this committee will be able to work with these changes prior to the next annual meeting with plenty of time and diligence. Any emergency bylaws changes required by LWVUS can be approved by the board and be effective only until the next annual meeting, at which time the membership shall vote on them being permanently incorporated for as long as they are applicable. Article 15, Parliamentary Authority. There is no change to this, and that is the end. So, all right. So, that's been a lot to take in, and I hope that we're all more familiar with bylaws now. Are there any comments or questions regarding these esteemed bylaws? Any section you'd like to explore? We've got a few minutes here, I hope. Okay, remember, bylaws require a 2/3 vote. So, any
I have a question. My name is Mary Price, and I noticed that if we vote to approve a name change, that will have to be incorporated into the bylaws. So perhaps if we're voting to approve these bylaws, maybe we can say we can also approve the substitution of the name of the local league.
Yeah. Yes, Mary, the name change has to be approved by this body and then by national. And then it would come back to us. And the board, as I said, could effect a temporary change to the bylaws, which would hold until our next annual meeting. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, Bob?
The board has the flexibility to modify the budget by 10%.
Only by 10%.
My question is the budget the projected revenue or the projected expense? Because in the operating budget, we're budgeting $50,000 of income and $60,000 of expense, and I'm just not clear. It's a nit, I'm sorry, but I'm just curious. When we talk about a budget, is it the revenue or the expense?
Well, it would apply to both, but Susan, do you have a feeling on that? Expense. Okay. Susan, we had to use your expertise, so I wasn't. Anyway, we've never had a professional parliamentarian before, so we're really impressed here. So anyway, anything else? But I thank you all for listening and appreciate your absorbing your bylaws. All right.
Yes, a tremendous amount of work and thoughtfulness went into that. So, if there are no further questions, and this is when we vote, I move we accept the bylaws as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Who?
Kathleen Edelman.
Thank you. For Barb. All right, let's vote. Do we accept the bylaws as presented? And we need a 2/3 vote. It looks like it passes. Thank you. I'm loving my gavel. Okay. I know, it's a good thing we started with it. If only I'd had this earlier in the year. I know, it's going to go to my head now. All right, next up, I would like to invite Shelley Erickson to present the nominating committee's report. This is another very intense job, so thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Excellent. Yes, good morning. So first of all, I would like to thank my nominating committee. This was a team effort. They were engaged. They were dedicated. They showed up to meetings. They got out and kind of stretched their comfort zone a little bit for some of them to talk to people and maybe talk to people they didn't know and ask them if they would be willing to serve. So it's a team effort. As you all know, we cannot do this work on our own. So I'd like to thank Muriel Bothwell, Barb Colvin, Awilda DiCarlo, and Sandy Tiano. They were amazing and also deserve some applause.
I don't know.
I think Barb, I don't see, yeah, I know Barb. I think Barb is the only one who is here. Oh, and me. Yes.
I'm just curious.
But thank you, yeah.
I like to be able to know
Who those people, I know, I agree, and I didn't see the other folks there. Yeah, thanks, Susan. Okay, so I'm pleased to, on behalf of the nominating committee, present the slate, which you see up here and also on your paperwork. There are a couple of positions that are open, and those are subject to board appointment. So I will ask the people who are being voted on today, if they are here, to stand or wave your hand or gesticate widely. First, Linda McCabe, President. Sherry Springer, President-elect. Susan Black, Secretary. Robert Owens, Advocacy. Welcome, Robert. Keep standing. Also voter we'll ask these folks to stand, although they've been appointed. Voter Services, Pat Markey, Sharon Mannion. If you're here, I know Pat is here because those are so important, so thank you for stepping up for that. So the two that are still open for board appointment are treasurer and the fund development and events. And the treasurer, oh my gosh, and we do. Okay, I didn't have that.
Yes, we should put that in the minutes.
That should be in the minutes, and that's Nicole. Okay, Nicole Zarkauer. Okay, so we have a treasurer who's not here today. That is a big deal. We also have the nominating committee chair. That would be me. I am standing. One more year. I'm looking at the rest of you. And then nominating committee members, Janet Christ, who's in the back. And also Yolanda Herrera, who was not able to be with us today. Oh, she is there. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry I didn't know. Yay. Thanks so much to Janice and Yolanda. You can stay standing too for a second. And then the other two will be appointed by the board, and we'll have our full committee starting later on this year. All right, so are there any nominations from the floor? No. All right, seeing none, I move we accept the slate as presented by me and the nominating committee. Do we need a second?
Second. Allison Titcomb, second.
Allison Titcomb is seconded. Okay, motion passes. Yes. Thanks, everyone.
We do have to vote. So we had our second. All those in favor of our slate, please raise your hand. Thank you. Motion passes. And thank you to everybody for serving and for our newer members who are stepping into leadership roles. It is so appreciated. And I am here to support all of you as well as our board. So, Yeah. So next up, I would like to invite Lovely Ganthier to present our newly named public policy positions. Thank you, Lovely.
Good morning, everyone. All right, I would like to present the recommended 2025-2026 public policy positions for consideration and approval. These positions reflect the League's continued commitment to informed advocacy, civic engagement, and addressing issues that impact our community and region. The recommended areas for update and continued study include consolidated government, water resources, air quality and climate, and housing. There is also interest in creating a dedicated housing subcommittee to focus more intentionally on affordability, availability, and related community impacts. This would allow members with interest and expertise in any of these areas to engage more deeply in research, discussion, and recommendations. We have been asked to form study groups and working teams to support position updates. If you are interested, in serving in any of these areas, please complete the sign-up sheet available at registration right in front of where I'm sitting, or see our board secretary, Bob Colvin. Each area includes 5 spaces. Please don't let that limit you. We also have index cards right next to the sign-up sheet. So I highly encourage those interested to step up and serve in that capacity. Any questions? Yes, Mike.
Can we add community violence prevention to one of these groups?
Yes. A study group for community violence prevention?
No, the committee itself. Are these just study groups or are these
no,
actual?
that committee already exists. You are well established, Bob. Sorry, Mike, you're not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, Mike, you should have seen that you were on the budget that Bob presented earlier. So that's how committed we are to your committee. So yes, community violence prevention is not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, I'll use that to say if you're interested in that as well, please see Mike. All right, hearing no further questions, do I make the move or do you make the move?
I'll make the move for consistency.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lovely. So are there any other questions? And I will add one thing. You can sign up here. There's also index cards and pens on your table. So if you want to say, hey, I'd like to be part of the Consolidated Government Review Committee, you can write that on your card with your name and contact info and give it to Barb. So there's multiple ways to indicate your interest in addressing these. So seeing no other questions, I move that we adopt the recommendations under the positions. Thank you. That does not require a vote. So if you remember, or if you were at the annual meeting last year, we brought up the idea of changing the name of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson to the League of Women Voters of Southern Arizona. Part of this is simply an administrative change to reflect the actual service area that our league covers. We go through a process with the state league, where we review what are the zip codes that fall under our jurisdiction. And surprise, we cover most of Southern Arizona. That includes Amando, Bisbee, Catalina, Cortaro, Douglas, Fort Huachuca, Green Valley, Mammoth, Mount Lemmon, Marana, Naco, Nogales, Oracle, Oro Valley, Patagonia, Relito, Rio Rico, Suarita, San Manuel, Sasabe, Sel, Sonoita, Tombstone, Topawa, Tubac, Tucson, Vale, and Wilcox. And I apologize for my Boston accent if I've mispronounced any of them. So part of our goal for this name change is to be more inclusive to the communities outside of Tucson, which we actually serve, and to support voter education and registration activities in those communities, something we have already done on occasion. We also want to indicate, if you are somebody who lives in Bisbee and you went to Google, is there a league chapter, and you see League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson, well, that's not you. So this would indicate to people that you can reach out to the league, that we can support your efforts. And when the committee met, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the potential to do outreach in some of these communities, especially in rural communities where having nonpartisan voter education and voter registration is so important. So, up here is the timeline. We approved looking into this and beginning the process at last year's annual meeting. A name change committee was formed and did the work of understanding what the process was, what the benefits and concerns would be, and what the costs would be. At the October board meeting of the Greater Tucson League, we approved this. We sent it to the State League. They approved it at their November meeting. The final process in this is for us, if we approve it at this meeting, the National Board meets quarterly. Their next meeting will be in June. I have already submitted the paperwork to them for it to be included on their agenda. If they vote to approve it, then we can move forward. Linda Longlet has already purchased the URLs for us. So we have those already for, I think, 5 years. And we did do, an analysis of what would have to be updated. The National League would have to change all of the technology on the Club Express to update it. We would need to, again, update our bylaws to reflect this change. We would need to alert the Corporate Commission and update our articles of incorporation, which we are prepared to do. In terms of print materials, we have tried to be strategic this year in how much we print, but all of our print items are updated on a regular basis anyway, so we would not be incurring additional costs. We would just update the name as we run through our materials. And as you can see, a lot of our other things are generic just to the League of Women Voters. They don't indicate a particular location, so those would be used. We have added some padding in the budget for unexpected costs that might be attached to updating the name, but this would be a process over time. It also gives us an opportunity to promote ourselves as we announce our new name change and our new area of coverage, which is always, all press is good press, kind of. So, any questions?
You have left Ajo out, and a couple of years ago, maybe longer than that, Ajo reached out to us and wanted us to start a league down there, and we didn't do it. I can't remember all the particulars, but you better add Ajo to the list.
Thank you. And also Yuma is on our list, so I will update that.
Winifred Williams?
Thank you.
If we're going to support these outlying areas, which is wonderful, I think this is a really good idea to divide this situation this way. We're going to have some way of these people attending by Zoom or whatever some of the meetings.
I mean, many of our current meetings are on Zoom and are available, recorded and available on our YouTube channel as well.
Hi, I'm Mary Davis. I didn't catch in the list of all the communities. Are we going to be involved on the Indian nations? Like cells? Well, within the reservation. Oh, okay.
Right. So I know that the DEI committee has relationships with some tribal entities and people in the tribe. It's really up to them, though. I mean, this is just what we cover. We're not imposing ourselves on anybody. It's making our services available to people who want them and supporting people who want to have the league available to them.
Laura Milner, I presume that whoever keeps the database of at-large will release them to us if there's Bisbee people out there that then we can hopefully convert to becoming our members?
They are already our members. We do have members from some of these locations already.
So even if they signed up at large, they would be ours?
We'd have to go through national and,
It's
just a membership. Yeah.
Okay.
And Carol, we have a whole honor of it. Okay, good.
That's a clerical error on my part.
Nina Willis, you said we were going to include Yuma?
Yes.
That's definitely not southern Arizona.
Yuma.
I don't know.
Give it to, so
Yeah.
we get it.
We got it. We drew the straw.
They're lucky.
Yes. Yes. Is what? It's not. No, I think that's.
How many steps are you getting,
I
Nicole?
think we can split, Marana.
So as a person who was born and raised in, I'm sorry, Allison Tidcombe, as a person who was born and raised in Nogales, I support this idea. And also, this is another opportunity for people to get involved because like I do a lot in southern Arizona. And so I'm looking forward to opportunities to help spread the word and do all these things. And now that DI is part of membership, this is also another way to collaborate on sharing and spreading. There you go, I know.
You've been
well, again, you find what you can do, right? And I can weave this into the way that I work. So anyhow, but I just, yeah, I know.
Emily Ricketts, I'm not sure, but the city, town, or whatever it is, because it's a small community, Randolph, part of this area because that's African American?
I don't believe so. I think that's further north.
Oh, but more like Maricopa County?
Yes. Yes, it would be part of Maricopa, but, we can specifically reach out to the chapter, because there's a couple of different Maricopa, there's Maricopa, Phoenix, to ask them to reach out to Randolph, but that's outside our service area.
All right, thank you.
So I worked on the digital directory of elected officials, and I've already made one for Southern Arizona. And Linda Longlet, keeper of all the data, gave me a list of all the zip codes that have been assigned to our area. So I know where they are. I know it's covered. It's basically south of the Gila River. And so it splits some counties kind of in the middle, part of Pinal and part of Graham-Greenlee area. But it's basically south of the Gila River and to both borders, the southern border.
South of the Gila sounds great. I just want to remind people that Yuma is in our congressional district.
Yes. Thank you, Betsy. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
There are 2 misspellings for the towns. Are those going to be in the regular thing, or are you going to correct them?
We've uncovered a couple of misspellings despite our diligence at editing, so we can correct those, obviously.
Is there anyone who has not spoken yet that has a question? Cool. Move on, please.
And I will invite people, again, on your index card, if this is something that you would like to be a part of implementing or exploring, please write that down and leave it with Barb. So if there are no other questions, I move that we approve the adoption of the name League of Women Voters of Southern Arizona. Do I have a second? Second. Allison Titcombe, second. And now we vote. Raise your hand if you would like to see us update our name. Wow, all right. No math involved. I love it. Okay. So now we come to the part in the program where we begin to our acknowledgments in transition of leadership. And it's going to make me a little emotional. It has been quite a year. It has been such an honor to steward the League this past year, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of work. I've said repeatedly how proud and amazed I am by the breadth and scale of the work this small but mighty group gets done. Thank you to the many members who donated to our Pay the Rent campaign to ensure we could keep the office open as a hub of activity, information, and support. In the fall, we recognized our 85th birthday at a founder's lunch, and recently have launched efforts to steward new members and create a clear path to leadership. Exciting efforts, all driven by our dedicated volunteers. So thank you. I am excited, not gonna lie, to pass the leadership baton to our next president, Linda McCabe, whose extensive experience with the League and voter services will serve us well in the year ahead with midterm elections, 2 incredibly important ballot initiatives that we are supporting, and there will be more information coming next week. I know everybody is eager, and ongoing efforts to ensure access to information and ballots for all. This meeting is a time to celebrate the work of the past year and prepare for the work ahead. I would be remiss to not mention the dark times we are facing. It is going to get worse before it gets better. To the men in the room, I say thank you for your allyship and support for our democracy. But I want to take a moment to speak to my sisters. Our voting rights are at stake. There will be decisions made in the coming weeks that could disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of women. Everything we do in the coming year, from registering and educating voters to inspiring the next generation of young women, through running and winning, every signature on a petition to protect voting rights for all in the Arizona Constitution, every new citizen we register to vote at a naturalization ceremony. These are all acts of resistance. We have been here before. We can do it again. Never forget those before us.
We will do it again.
We will. We honor their legacy and continue it with our work. Do not give up, and please take care of one another. The work of the League, our work to empower voters and defend democracy, has never been more important. Keep going. Me. I don't know, in the immortal words of the Godfather, every time I get out, they pull me back in. All right. Now I've all discombobulated and I've lost where I am in the order of events here. Okay. Next up, since you're all crying with me, I would like to invite Pat Markey up for our in memoriam.
I want to thank the board for allowing me to speak on behalf of my good friend Elizabeth Zagora. She passed away in February this year, and I don't know how many of you were fortunate enough to know her or work with her, but she was really an exceptional person. She was wonderful. I probably have known her for 30 years. We met her when we first arrived in Tucson, and her husband Steve and her daughter Krista, and the family has grown. She has had a granddaughter, granddaughter's still around. And I just wanted to go through a few things about Elizabeth's life, her trajectory and that sort of thing, and then talk a little bit about her character. And then, oddly enough, another friend sent a picture and a poem that he had written, and I thought that it would be appropriate to read. It's very short. Anyway, getting on to it. Elizabeth was born in 1949 She lived in eastern Tennessee for much of her life. She graduated high school as valedictorian. Big surprise, right? She also had incredible music talent that she used when she was younger. She played the piano and the organ. And you may also know that she, as she is here, she was also involved in her church. She married Steve, who was an anthropologist at, excuse me, at least my nose is dripping. He was an anthropologist, and they had a daughter, Krista. And Krista got married eventually, and they had a daughter, Elise. And Elise is a strapping young child and full of energy. Well, Elizabeth went on, and she got her education at Bryn Mawr College, her BA, and then she did a PhD in French and Italian at literature at Duke, which is in North Carolina. So she Pennsylvania, North Carolina, east, south, that whole area. But then when she got out of college, she started her professional career. And she first taught at Davidson College in North Carolina. Then she taught at DePauw in Indiana. And then she and Steve moved to Arizona. And she joined the University of Arizona as an associate professor in French and Italian literature. And she was also director of undergraduate studies. She was director of graduate studies. She was an honors advisor, and she was also an Arizona Assurance Mentor, which helps first and second year students achieve success through the Arizona program of Thrive Peer Mentoring. She loved the Italian Renaissance, and she wrote 3 books, co-authored one, but wrote 2 others on Rabelais. He's a French author and also philosopher of the Renaissance. And she also wrote a book on Marguerite de Navarre's Shifting Gaze. And it is subtitled Perspectives on Gender, Class, and Politics in the Heptameron. And there was a whole issue in France at that time. They called it the Querelle des Femmes. It sometimes translates as dispute, but it's more like quarrel. She had a very strong interest in some of the issues of the time, and it clearly shows up in her current interests. She also had a lot of extracurricular activities. She was a classical music announcer for KUAT. She supported the music here in Tucson, the Arizona Opera and the Tucson Chamber Music. And she was deeply involved in St. Michael's and All Angels Church, St. Michael and All Angels Church, and St. Michael's School, where her daughter went.
She was on their vestry as well, I think.
What?
She was on their church vestry.
Yeah, she did a lot of work. And she was a member of the League of Women Voters and part of the DEI committee. So you can tell that from this background that she developed, that she had a keen interest in a lot of the issues that we deal with in the League of Women Voters. So it was a natural fit for her. She was a very determined person, as you can tell. But the thing that she had, she was also, I don't want to call her demure, but you just never noticed this core of steel that she had. And because it only appeared when she was going through really difficult times. And if you didn't know her, you may not notice that she was even going through that. And I did find some comments on the U of A website from her supervisor and coworkers. And her supervisor said Elizabeth embodied the very best of what it means to be an educator through her generous support and mentorship of students and colleagues. And her coworkers said she had an uplifting presence. I think that's a great description. She gave sound advice, yay. She was good-natured, and she was generous with her time, and which we all are. She was very principled, and she had a strong moral compass. And you can see that in supporting her faith community and her interest in the DEI group of the League of Women Voters here. And I just, it's hard to describe how much she impacted my life. It was just sort of pervasive, you know, low level, there, constant. And as I said, as I was preparing this discussion, this remembrance for Elizabeth, I was also, a friend had sent me a poem associated. He was also a photographer, and he usually takes his photographs and doctors them up a little bit. And he had 3 macaws flying in the Amazon, and I know that at least one of them was real because he had gone with my son and my husband to on a river rafting trip in the Amazon on one of the tributaries, and so I suspect that's where that came from. And his poem went along with this picture. So think of this picture of 3 macaws flying over the Amazon River. And his name is Kenny Turner, and it begins, "In the vast green breath of the Amazon, 3 macaws travel together, not by chance, but by trust. The universe does not send companions without reason. It teaches us through them how to journey without fear." And I think that embodies us. It embodied Elizabeth, and we go forward.
Thank you. It's very important for everyone to know how invaluable Elizabeth was as a member of the gun violence prevention team, and her energy and her knowledge. She was on the legislative side. She knew all these things backwards and forwards. She tried to teach me, and I was just like,
thank you.
Go there. But she was the living commitment of the work that we did, which is now the Community Violence Prevention Team. But she was tremendous and an invaluable friend. And so,
to many.
I want to bring that up.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Okay, moving on. Before we get to Maudlin, let's remember to recognize all of the good work that we do, and first off, and all of our individual members. So I would first like to recognize, once again, Joan Kaltzis with her 50-year member award.
The league recognizes 50-year membership. And the good news is you never have to pay dues again. You can just donate directly. And you have a certificate of recognition, you have a letter from the board, and you get your 50-year pin. So congratulations. You heard the president of Nebraska, I don't remember your first name. Here, Claudia. You heard her talk about finding our people. I had a son who went off to college, and we weren't sure it was the right fit, and he called us a couple months later and said, "Mom, I have found my people." And when I was 32 years old, I was recruited into League, and
I had never encountered a group of women like that before. And over the 50 years, I have found my people. But those women that I first encountered were confrontational. They were not afraid to say their mind. They were opinionated, obviously. They were dedicated to the principles of League. And they took someone in like me, just a young kid, and within a few months, I was already an elected official. So anyway, okay. So, but what I remember most was how in awe I was of those women, and I can tell you, over 50 years, in spite of a lot of disappointments and rough places in League, that I'm still in awe of all of the people here in this room. And I just am grateful for those 50 years. And so I thank you, Betsy, I thank the board, and I thank the League and all of you.
So I think Sherry and Taylor are going to come up to present the Leaguer of the Year Award and the Lifetime Achievement Award. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, Joan, you're up.
I get to be the first one, though. So this is the fun part. After we all cried and everything, oh my gosh, this is the fun part. So those of you who were at the luncheon last year, I was absolutely floored and completely honored to be named as Leaguer of the Year. I don't think I've ever been that surprised in my whole entire life. So whether or not we're going to accomplish that kind of shock this year or not, but I am truly, truly, truly honored to be able to introduce our Leaguer of the Year this year. Our Leaguer of the Year this year represents the description of Leaguer of the Year as a member who works quietly behind the scenes, supporting many of the LWVGT activities. She has been described as a volunteer extraordinaire and is compelling in her sincerity. And in about 2 minutes, you're going to probably know who I'm talking about. For at least 5 years, she has been a reliable desk volunteer. Not only did she cover her shifts, but was always willing to fill any vacancies. Many times during the years, she would take on extra tasks like deep cleaning the office, shredding, organizing, etc. For the past 12 months, she has coordinated the publication of This Week in Greater Tucson. She took on Vote 411 when a chair was needed. She has chaired the Bylaws Committee and is currently on the 2026 Bylaws Committee. For several years, she prepared the call for the annual meeting as requested. And I didn't know this. This was a fun fact for me to find out. In 2019, she chaired Issues and Eggs when there was a huge void and nobody else stepped up. She recently took on, this is going to be the giveaway, she recently took on being co-chair of the Voter Services Committee and will serve as a board member for our league. By now, many of you know, I am referring to Pat Markey. I'm not done. I've got a few more things to say, so. Okay, maybe we got it. I do have a few more things to say about Pat because I actually got on the phone with her son, which was I had the most wonderful conversation with this man. Your son, Pat, is a charming young man via phone. So on a personal note, I learned all sorts of things about Pat. She's traveled the world. She has a PhD in Romance linguistics. She is particularly passionate about the French language and culture. Do you and Laura Benson get together very often? You should. She lives in France half the time. She's an avid hiker, loves the outdoors, enjoys yoga and morning walks with her friends. When I was speaking to her son, Ty, he made a really strong point to tell me that Pat speaks very highly of our league, our mission, and our members, and it has truly fulfilled her life and given her a lot of direction and passion. I said to him, in return, our members feel the exact same way about Pat. Every one of you, I think. We are fortunate you have chosen to volunteer for our league. We are honored and thrilled to acknowledge you as our Leaguer of the Year. So I'm going to say this, Pat, because I didn't get to do my job as thoroughly. We have a certificate. I have a little gift. We got Pat one of the brand new poetry books that was written by league members that is just now available. A few of us were able to sign the back of it. Your son actually told me you would love to have signatures in this. I would love for any of you who have served on a committee with Pat, who know Pat, who have hiked with her, yogaed with her, to sign this book for her too.
God bless you.
Don't wait, there's more. Because I'm a flower freak. Congratulations, Darby.
Okay, so I'm oblivious of everything that's going on in the league. Yeah, thank you so much. This is just incredible.
You don't know how hard it was yesterday not to say any, I mean, a couple of times I almost slipped. It was hard not saying anything.
God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, in case you haven't seen enough of me already, if you live long enough, you get to do these things. Okay. So last year I was this award's Lifetime Achievement Awards winner, and because no good deed in league goes without another job, I have the honor of conferring upon the recommendation of the awards committees and the nominations received this year's award, which, by the way, isn't a given every year. The average number of years that the last 5 members who received the Lifetime Achievement Award had been active in league when they received the award was 48 years. And to our credit, and in spite of our infirmities, we're still all here sharing our lives with league. Carol West. Carol, can you stand? All right. Thanks, Carol. Phyllis Carnahan, who's not here, but many of you know Phyllis. Judy Mull, I know, is here. Judy, can you stand, please? And Judy Wood, who isn't here, and myself. And to our credit, we still are working within league. And you might guess that we're all 80 and above. But anyway, this, however, is not a requirement for this award. There are a lot of hardworking, long-lasting women in league. Many of them have been awarded Leaguer of the Year or have been president. But here's the dilemma. How many of them have exceeded 25 years of active service, which is somewhat of a requirement or a benchmark for this award, and are still consistently and significantly involved? Sort of another benchmark. One person this year garnered our attention. To say that she's been very active since joining league is an understatement. But she's just 25 years short she's just a few years short of 25 years in. Okay, let me say. Still, the question of longevity was raised. And then we discovered that belying her experience, her energy, her stamina, and her youthful looks, she joined the league at 60, so she's 82 this year. So we had the question, were we going to wait until she turned 85? The committee decided not to wait, and to select for this year's award, Sue DiArmond. Before she takes all of the accolades here, let's be very clear, Sue, this is not a segue to leaving your responsibilities in league. You don't get to quit. But you might ask, well, wait a minute, if she joined at 60, where was she all those years? Well, she was honing her skills for her future in league. She was on the board of TUSD, the library board, Arts in the Schools, the Children's Museum, the PTA, the Tucson Museum of Art, the Renaissance Players, and that was when I stopped writing all this down. And in between this, she raised with Murray their 3 kids. And a great aside to Sue's life with league is the fact that her parents were league members, joining this league in 1977. Her dad worked with Frida Johnson and Betsy Zakowski, many of you know those women, on early league water and wastewater issues. So anyway, Upon reaching 60, I assume she finally succumbed, a gentle way of saying that someone got to her, and she has spent years working, and she's named a few of the people with whom she's worked: Frida, Carol West, Patsy Fernia, Betsy, Shirley Mooney, Bob Richardson, Barbara Becker, and as many more she could remember, and she became part of that league that she knew from her 30s. And Sue hasn't stopped working with us. Many of you know that. You know how enthused and committed she has been throughout those 20-plus years of being on just about every existing committee there has been, from what she described as primitive basements and machines to our technology and office of today. And she admits in her words that I have received so much pleasure with the outstanding women and men I have worked with. My friends largely come from my neighborhood and from this league. League helps organize my life. League makes me feel I am contributing to a more informed and better world. In 2014, Sue received Leaguer of the Year award. And now, 12 years later, into her 80s and forever dedicated to League, we, the League of Greater Tucson, say, Sue, you deserve this award. It's yours. And let me get it here, along with this. Hold on. This certificate. Sue, come on up, please. Sue, thanks for all that you've done for all these years. And one more time, let's give her a hand.
Thank you, Joan, and thanks to all of you. I'm really pleased to accept this wonderful honor of being a Life Achievement Award. It kind of sounds ominous, actually, but I'm still active. It's been my privilege to spend so many years volunteering for this organization. The League has presented a perfect opportunity for me to exercise my passion, which is community involvement. And I want to thank especially the Voter Service Committee for allowing me to be political without being partisan. That is a gift. And gave me an opportunity to do my part in making democracy work. I'm indebted to many mentors, which Joan mentioned many of them, and my friends who have helped me be a better member along the way. So finally, my hope is that organizations such as ours will continue to provide the essential strength of our democracy, and that for now and for years to come. Thank you. I have allergies, so I sound a little weird. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Betsy.
For the time that I've been a member of this league in 2018, she has been my loyal and most fierce neighbor and has helped me do so much. Words will never express how much I love her and appreciate her.
All right. Well, we've come to that all-important moment. It is time to welcome a wonderful person, another champion of the League, someone who's going to serve us so well in the coming year, and someone I'm so grateful to for her support throughout my brief stewardship. And I would like to welcome our new incoming president, Linda McCabe. And if you'd like, I'll let you borrow my gavel.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Before I continue, Betsy only gave me 8 minutes, but we're ahead of time. So, guys, So, first of all, I'd like to thank Susan Wilson, who is a professional parliamentarian, for sitting here with us today to make sure that we did everything in order. So thank you, Susan. We have a little gift for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have offered for me to leave.
Yes, you may
do signs and secret things.
No, I'm going to pontificate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The good news is apparently you followed the rules because you didn't have to intercede, so thank you.
That's because this is a very organized organization.
Thank you. We'll be calling on you again, I promise. So I wrote a little speech, but we have time, so I'm going to go off my speech. Yes, I'm going off script. Sue DeArmond is holding up her timer thing that says stop. Sue, so I'll start, just give you a brief of who I am and why I love the League. I was a history major in college, but my political career started when I was 6. And I sat at the table and I licked stamps and envelopes for my mom for John Kennedy's presidential campaign. So I come from a family that has always been very socially committed politically and to social justice. So when I was in college here, I found a little brochure that was written by a group called the League of Women Voters, and it had all of the candidates in it and their political, what they were standing for and what the issues were. And I was in love with the League of Women Voters. I didn't know who they were, but they were really smart because they had this book I could look at that would help me decide who I was going to vote for. Now, I didn't get to join the League of Women Voters until 2015 in Knoxville, Tennessee. I taught middle school and I retired, and I wanted to come do something, and lo and behold, there was the League of Women Voters. So I worked with the League of Women Voters in Knoxville until 2022 when we moved here. I did a variety of jobs for the League of Women Voters there. Their structure is a little different there. They have a first vice president and a second vice president, and you move up to become president. So I served in both of those capacities. So yes, some of you are going, oh Lord, you were on the board for freaking ever. And yes, it is true. It is true. So, I did a lot of things. I was president there. They had president for 2 years. We don't have that. So this year I asked Betsy, we sat and talked and looked at a few places and decided that emeritus would be a good addition to the structure of our league to solidify our leadership positions on the board. So she's agreed to stay on next year, and thank you so very much for doing that. So there are 3 of us now. Sherry is learning as president-elect. Every day she learns something new that she gets to do as president-elect. We are going to have to write a job description, but it's really important. One of the things that Betsy and I added this year to President-elect was to run the office, and which includes the desk volunteers, but Linda Longlet has really helped with that schedule. Thank you. So you learn a lot. You learn a lot as working in the office. You don't really know what goes on. So I'm looking around this room, and there's a couple of people I want to recognize because, as it's been pointed out, we do our work quietly, but we are instrumental in what happens in our community. But internally, I want to thank Chris Geimer, who is, without her, we would not know who our members were. And, you know, this job, I mean, she has taken on, it is a heavy lift for her with the transition in national to sending. We send them our membership money. They send it back and say, okay, they can be a member. Chris has to figure out, okay, how do I put her in the computer? Then she hands it to Linda Longlet. I mean, the process is long and cumbersome. And I just want to thank you because this is something nobody knows that you all do. And I wanted you to be acknowledged for the work that you do. Thank you. The transition is still going on. As Bob alluded to you, we do not get a lot of money now from our membership dues. We pay $75, and I think we get 11. Is that right, Bob? 15. Oh, we get 15, but then there's all these little fees, right? So we end up with like $14. So what used to be a pretty sizable amount of our money that came in to our league no longer exists. So one of the things we're going to be working on this year, and Sherry also worked on this year, was our fund development. And we don't have a fund development director right now, or who also does events. But we'll be looking at a couple of more fund development pieces to do. We have 300.
Anybody's interested in joining that group?
Write it on your index cards with your information, please. I was talking to somebody who asked me as we were coming in the door about our dues, and I said, we have 367 members. If every member gave $100 a year, we'd be doing pretty good. So I'm just putting that out there to you to pass on to your friends. You know, we'll do raise the rent again. Coming from Knoxville, we did not have an office. I will tell you what a great asset it is to have an office. I cannot imagine us without an office. The work is diluted and fragmented when you don't have a central location. I will just tell you that. So please consider contributing to pay the rent.
$30 a day.
$30 a day.
$200 a week.
$200 a week.
$30 a day.
Okay, that's right. $900 a month. Also, I want to talk about the fact that I am privileged and honored to be president here. I moved back to Tucson 4 years ago. I promised that I would not do this job again. I avoided it. I did avoid it before, but you know, I was avoiding it, but Betsy called me, and Betsy and I worked together in voter services, and how could I resist? I mean, I did take the weekend, and my husband kept looking at me going, "You're going to do it, aren't you?" And I said, "I'm thinking." But, you know, the pull is too strong because we are in a place right now, sisters and brothers, that is truly scary. Now, in our history, we've been here before. I mean, when you think about the fact that it took 8 years to actually found our country, because when you go back and you read, 1776 was just the Declaration, but you know, it took until 1884 to get 13 colonies to agree on something that they could all live with. And the compromises were incredible, and we're still paying for them today, good or bad. We still have to deal with that. Then, of course, we had the Civil War and everything that led up to the Civil War, and nobody thought that we were going to make it. We thought we were going to be two countries, but we survived that. Then we had a very dark time in this country with Jim Crow laws and the Ku Klux Klan. And then we went to the Gilded Age, where the oligarchy ran the country and people lived in extreme poverty. But we overcame that. And we've come to where we are today, which is not a great place to be, but you have to think about what's happened in the past. We have had the KKK, they are rising again. The Southern Poverty Law Center is under investigation by the Department of Justice now. In 1939, we had the group of Nazis, the German-American Bund rally, marching down the streets of New York City. So we have always existed in a place where the First Amendment is important. But then you have to think about culturally, what is important? Is it important that everybody, like the Nazi Party, get to speak? Yes, because it is their right. But by the same token, those of us that oppose that have to stand up and speak louder than they do. There have been cities, and I always read this and I love this, small towns where they get the word that the KKK is going to march or the Nazis are going to march. The stores close. People go into their homes. So here are a group of people marching down the street with no audience because people reject having to see that. It is their right to march, but it is our right to not have to see that. So as we move, because the League of Women Voters, we are out there. There are 800 leagues. There are millions of us, and every single day, everything we do to help the League is an act of resistance. Every person that we register to vote, every person that we talk to about call your congresspeople, for every single person that calls, they consider that a call from 10 people. I call my family that live in, and my friends that live in states that are highly Republican, and I say, if you don't call, they may not listen to you, but you're making a phone call. There are people in this room I know that call their congressperson who knows their voice and their name now. I think this is a good thing. And Fran, you know who you are, okay? I laugh like hell every time I hear that. I called my congressman again, and they're like, okay, we know it's you. We are fortunate in southern Arizona to live in a place where there are more political options than there are in other places in Arizona. And I encourage us to help our sister leagues because they are having a tough time. Northern Arizona, parts of Maricopa County, and whatever we can do when they call upon us to help them, we're going to step forward and help them with phone calls and postcards. So I am now going to read you the official 5-minute piece that I'm allowed to have. And I feel very strongly about the work our league does. Because of our nonpartisan piece, we can go places that other people cannot go. And people welcome us because we went down to Tombstone, Judy Moll and I, 2 years ago, to help with a neighborhood association election. And we were the only group that they would allow in because we were nonpartisan. And it was kind of, it was an interesting thing. I'll let Judy tell her part of the story sometime. But being in Tombstone and watching people standing there outside on the porch with their guns in their little, like, what do you call them? Holsters. Thank you very much. I know a lot about guns, right?
We'll teach you.
All right, so now I'm going to read what I actually wrote. Okay, all right, good. It is an honor and a privilege to serve as president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson for the 2026 term. I am grateful to work alongside a dedicated board whose members bring both professional expertise and a shared commitment to advancing our mission. I extend special thanks to President-elect Sherry Springer for her partnership this year. Thank you for saying yes. And to Betsy Bogia, who will continue to support the board as President Emeritus, offering valuable experience and mentorship. In the coming year, we will focus on strengthening our impact across Pima County. We aim to establish at least one new local unit to foster in-person engagement through small group discussions and community-based programming. We will also invest in leadership development by creating a structured cycle of training, mentorship, and skill-building opportunities for our members. As we approach the election cycle, Our commitment to empowering voters remains central. Through voter registration efforts, candidate forums, our ReadySetVoteTucson.org website, and outreach across the region, we will continue to promote informed and active participation. This is what we started to do in 1920, and this is what we will continue to do. Above all, our strength lies in our members. It's in you. Together, across 4 generations, yes, there are 4 generations of us in this League of Women Voters, we are empowering voters and defending democracy. I look forward to working with you in the year ahead. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, now is the time when you as the members will give direction to the new board, and I'd like the new board to stand if you are here. That's you too, Betsy. Okay, so are there... And current board, yes, and current board, stand also. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Stand, please. And thank you, Bob. Okay. Will you get the microphone, please? Thank you. And yes, yes.
I thank all of you for serving. I don't want to take up a lot of time, so I've addressed a letter that I hope will be delivered and read to the board at your first meeting. And I'll ask Nicole if she would please give that to the president and the secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any other directions to the board? Anything that you would like us to consider during the year? Okay.
Linda, you mentioned the other 4 leagues, many of whom are struggling. They've always been struggling, unfortunately, many of them. Anything that this league has, it used to be money, it's not anymore, but any of the skills that are here in this league, if we could share them with those other leagues,
yes,
it would be a great boon for them to know that they can, that there's some things that we are good at, not that they aren't, but that they just don't have they don't have the woman power that we have in this league. They're just struggling maybe with a few dozen people. We have over 300, so.
And men power as well, not just women power, I know.
Thank you, thanks. I know, Susan, I know, and I apologize, because if you knew, I love the men in this league, so, okay.
We love you too, Joan.
Thank you, Joan. Anybody? Oh, I can't.
Got it. Oh,
Hi there, I'm a new member, but my mama was active quite a while ago. And I'm volunteering for that fund development and events volunteer. And I just want to know if y'all don't mind, I put a donation box from one of the coffee things over here by the door. I'd also like to ask the board to set up, if possible, rather than email, I mean, in addition to email, a text message chain of contact. Because I don't look at my email like I used to when I had a desk in front of me, but the text message, you know, like, goes like fire if you can get it to everybody, and I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one.
Yes. You want to speak?
I just want to note that the request has been made to establish a committee advocacy committee under our housing program to look at housing and homeless issues. So that should be established by the board.
Okay, thank you. We're a very easygoing group, if you've noticed. Go ahead.
We have the ability for text messaging, but you have to go in on your profile and opt in. So if you want to start a text messaging thing, we need to do that.
Okay. Oh, here comes our, between she and Linda, we'd be lost. Come on out here.
I'd just like to say we'll probably have to do some sort of a campaign to let people know that this is an option, and we'll take care of that.
Thank you. Thank you. See, we can do stuff. Anybody else?
Hello. Hi. Then I guess to kind of put like further that, how we do the newsletter This Week in Greater Tucson. First off, will that be changed to This Week in Southern Arizona?
After the national board says yes.
Okay, cool. But also I wonder if it's possible. So like for instance, I get a text from the ACLU when there's like a new article or something, just like very topical going on right now, or ways to donate, and I don't exactly know the logistics of getting a like a number, like a code you can message to or like opt in. So if it's possible to do This Week in Greater Tucson, not just through email, but also as like a newsletter that you can get in text. Yeah. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's all.
Yes, our tech people are listening. And not to call you out or anything, but this is a member of this is our youngest member in our league right here. We're so happy. We have members in their early 20s and members in their 90s, so that's how we're doing the 4 generations. It's wonderful. I personally just hand my 15-year-old great-nephew my phone, and he fixes it.
I'll set up those texts. Don't worry. I got it.
All right. If no one has any other direction to the board, I will talk about National Convention, which begins on June 26th in Columbus, Ohio. We have 7 delegates allotted to us. We currently have 6 delegates. 2, Sherry and I are actually going in person. But we have filled them except for 1 delegate. Now, this will also be online. So we have 1 position open for a delegate who would attend by Zoom, and we would pay the $150 registration fee. So if you're interested, please write it on your index card and hand it in to us so that we can contact you.
What are the dates again? June 26th?
It's 26th to 28th.
It's on the tables.
It's on the tables. So with that, I am also asked to ask you all if you have any comments or any ideas that you would like us to take to National Convention as your delegates. You can also share them on your index cards at the table or after this meeting.
This is probably already on your list, but after the comments about how unwieldy all the membership stuff is.
It's on the list.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, on your tables, and you will also get an email, is the state LWV-AZ Council. Every other year, we have a council meeting, and it happens, the council meeting is the same year as our national annual meeting. So next year will be our annual meeting, and national will have a council meeting. So they work counter to each other so that we're not all having annual meetings the same year. This year is a council meeting. It is also on Zoom. We are, according to our membership numbers, we are accorded 15 delegates to this meeting. And there is a budget, and there is a people to be nominated to the state board. So on your tables, there is information. I would strongly, it's a $20 fee, and if you are a delegate, we will pay the $25. Just let us know on your index cards if you'd like to, or after the meeting. I'd encourage you to come because there are sessions, there are speakers, and there are breakout sessions, and these are very relevant to What does empowering voters and defending democracy look like in real time? What are the actions that we can take as members? So if you would please look at the papers on your table, and you'll be getting the exact same thing in an email. Please join us at this council meeting. You learn a lot about the whole state by attending these council meetings. And the date is May 30th. It's a Saturday. It's an all-day meeting, 9 to 4. Yes, Shelley.
The state is having 2 information sessions.
Yes.
If you're a delegate, you can register for those. Those are also on Zoom. That'll be in the voter, but you can also find it on the website.
Yes, thank you. So both for national and the council meeting, there are sessions that prepare you to go into the meetings so that you know what's expected of you and what you'll be discussing. All right, are there any other questions or comments that anybody has? Oh, excuse me, one more announcement. On your tables, on May 30th, and I'm looking for this.
No, April 30th.
April 30th, that is next
Thursday.
Next Thursday. In 1916, 2 women drove over 10,000 miles across the country to fight for the right to vote. Now, 110 years later, that journey is happening again because women still don't have guaranteed equal rights under the U.S. Constitution. Drive the Vote is traveling across the country to push Congress to finally recognize the Equal Rights Amendment as the law of the land. They'll be stopping in Tucson on April 30th, 4 o'clock at the YWCA of Southern Arizona, 525 North Bonita. You are all asked to wear white or a suffrage outfit, if you have a suffrage outfit.
We'll have more of these flyers in the office. I literally got that flyer at 6 a.m. this morning. So I printed what I could right out the door. So we will have more of those in the office by this weekend. How long?
Couple of hours.
4 to 6.
You know, the Equal Rights Amendment was signed by the correct number of states. You all know that. It is being held up because of the time issues. The members of Congress seem to feel that it was not signed in the appropriate time frame that it was given. So it is a legal fight that's been going on for years now. Betsy Bogia, yellow roses for the suffrage movement and a board gift.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you all very much. I think with that,
Want to gavel us out?
okay, with that, the 2025 annual meeting of the League of Women Voters.
25-26.
The annual meeting of the 2026 annual meeting now is closed. Thank you.